Good morning and welcome everybody. I can see a few people still popping in, but we'll just start. Welcome to the WorkPoint 365 Power BI webinar. As per usual, we're recording it and we'll distribute the recording afterwards. And as per usual, it seems that I have a sore throat every time I'm going to say something, but I'll try anyway. We are going to talk about Power BI, which can be used for making reports based on data from WorkPoint 365. And I'll give you a few examples. Just so we have leveled expectations, it's not going to be a thorough training course in Power BI. Power BI is a quite advanced tool. You can do a lot of things, and that would be several days of training, I believe. But what we want to here is to demonstrate simple use of Power BI by connecting to a WorkPoint solution and give you an idea of what data can you get out and what can you do with it. Also, some of those small pitfalls that you might want to avoid. As you probably all are aware, that Power BI is Microsoft's business analytics tool from the Office suite, and it can do heaps of things. You can read about it on the Microsoft website, and there are lots of guides as well on how to work with it and what it can do. But let's have a look at some of the options. I'm going to use this project management solution, that demo solution for getting out data. This is one with the company and project and contact module. I'm going to have a few looks at some of the project data in there. So this is the data source. Now, the first thing to do is to get started is to download and install Power BI Desktop, and that's important that it's the desktop application that you're using for this. There are a number of Power BI applications, and some of them are just for viewing. What you want is the management tool. It can be downloaded here as part of the Office application. So to start with, we will simply connect and create a basic pie chart just for show. And as you have been here before, know that I'm relying on sometimes creating a video, so I've done this the same way. I've created a little video that will walk you through the steps, so no data connection would stop anything here. Now, when you open Power BI, you will get this entry form, and you don't want to have to sign up. You will simply log in with your Power BI account if you have one, and in my case that's just my Office account. So signing in will allow me then to start working, and I can get data from the link here, or I can simply go to the menu right in the tool in the My Tools and get data. When I do that, I get presented with a number of options. As you can see, I can get data from a lot of sources. Some of them are Microsoft stuff, but they're also Oracle, and there are IBM, and I think even Facebook you can drag data out from. So you can use Power BI to get data from a lot of sources, including, of course, WorkPoint. Yeah, and that was the wrong click. We're going back here. So when I do get my data, I will be presented with the options, as I said. And what I want to choose here is my SharePoint Online source. So I'm going to go to my online services and pick the SharePoint Online list, because WorkPoint, as you know, is based on SharePoint, so that's what I'm connecting to. Now I want to enter my site URL. That was the site I showed you before as a project management solution in WorkPoint. So I'll simply type that in or copy it, and then it will looking at the URL and connect to the solution. I need to sign in to my solution with my user account. And then it will start connecting, waiting. It might take a little while. It can be a little slow to work with these data from SharePoint. It's not as fast as a database you would expect, but there's a lot of stuff in there. So now I'm getting my data here. It shows me the URL, and then you can see a number of lists here, and if you look carefully you will see, for example, there are a contact module, there are some other stuff, and companies module, and some further down of course the project, and then there's heaps of other stuff that you need to navigate through. And that would be one of the challenges here. If you go and drag and get data out, you need to find what is it actually I'm looking for. But the modules would typically that contains the data you're after would typically be named very familiar, so that would be your help. So now I will choose what I want to get out, and going down I find my project. There we go. So if I click that one, I will then get a preview and can then ask it to load. And be aware that this can take a while. If you have thousands of records in your solution, you should be patient. Now I only have 20, 30, 50, something like that, so that's fairly easy. 33 rows it got up, and now you have your data to the right. You get the project, and all the data fields in the project list is over here. So now I can pick which fields do I want. I go to my data view and I can see all the columns and all the data in there, and as you can see, some of this is really not making a lot of sense, but you can see I did the wrong click again, I'm sorry. We'll just scroll through here. The problem with using a video. We'll load it once again so you're sure you know how to do it. As I said, we will go to the data sheet. You can see all the columns. And some of them make sense. Some of them are used on easy to understand, such as the title, as you see here. And some of them just doesn't make any sense at all for the normal user. But this is simply just what's in the project list, and you can see lots of fields, so you'll have to navigate and find the right one you need. That's the stage list. We're going to use the stage field. We're going to use the stage field in a minute. And it goes on and on and on. There's a lot of data in there that is used of the backend. So let's try and put in a pie chart and simply just pick the stages. There we are. So I can choose the stage and drag it to my bar here, and then I will get a view of the stages. As you can see, that would be simply just dividing the bar into the number of stages, number of projects in stage planning. That would be 8, and stage analysis and stage active, etc. So that's a very simple pie chart where you're just taking one field and getting it getting the count for the number of projects. As you can see to the right, we have the count of WP stage, which is the field name. So that looks very easy, and of course you can then start building and joining things. So let's have a look at how we can manage our query further. We have in Power BI something called the Power Query Editor, which is where you can manage your dataset even further if you're well into how you work with datasets. Of course, that is a requirement. So let's have a look again. I'll see if I can click right time this. As you can see, the WP stage, it's a little bit of a bad name for it really, so we might want to change that. That's just a field name, internal field name in WorkPoint. Going to, and I have all these columns, all these fields that maybe I want to cut that down. So now I clicked on my Power Query editor and want to be able to choose columns. And here I can see, okay, what do I actually want in my data set? If I deselect everything and then just take the few ones I want to, then I will have a much more simple data set to work with, and it'll be much easier for me to manage. This, of course, requires you have already analyzed what data fields you need for your report or for what you want to do. But clicking those few and then saying, okay, it will update, and this again can take a while if you have a lot of data there. Now I also want to rename my column, my header, because that will be much nicer if it looks better. So I just go in and change. You're not doing anything to WorkPoint here. You're doing this to the data you pulled out from WorkPoint. So you're not changing things in WorkPoint. Don't worry about that. So now we have the project stage, and they're all nice and easy looking now. Then I need to apply. So I will close and apply. And then again, we will get things updated. So it applies the changes, and hopefully this query will look much better. So now you will see that my names have, or my labels have changed. There's no WP in front of project stage, etc. So a simple work with refining the query, removing the columns you don't need. You can see to the right that now we're dealing with four columns here, and that's all the data we have at this point, which might be enough if you know what you're looking for and what you want to work with. So using the query editor can be a good way of getting a more simple data set to work with. Right. Let's move on. Now, those of you familiar with data and with working with data tables, data set, know that joining data can be necessary to get the information out you want. And this can be done here as well. You need to be a little careful that SharePoint can also be a bit of a slow database to work with when joining data, but there are workarounds to this. But just be aware that when you join data in SharePoint, in Power BI from SharePoint, you can get quite a bit of slow performance on the process. But let's have a look how we do this. Again, you can go and get your editor. So I want to edit my query. Note that to the right you have all these applied steps. So that's a very nifty little feature Power BI does. You can simply change the steps you've done, and I want to remove this one where I chose the columns. Now be careful here, as it says. It may, if you remove a step, it might actually break what you've done. So you need to know what you're doing, but you could also click on the cogwheel to the right over here, and then you would be able to edit this step instead of just deleting it. I'm just deleting it for this one, but you can do both. But just be careful that it won't break the rest of it. Then you have to start over. So I'm deleting this, and what will happen is I'm going back to having my full list of data. Now I want again to go and choose columns. And there's a lot of them. Found the right one. Project manager was wanted. Project stage, and you can see those which title is already changed, and we want the budget as well. So now we got a new set of data. Now, note that this one over here says record. This is one of those tables where you're looking at a, what you call in SharePoint terms, a lookup field, where you're actually referring to another set of data. So this one, I can, by this little button I'm pointing at, I can open this this other record, other list, to see what's in there. And again, given that you have large data set, be careful. It might be, slow performing. It's nothing to do with WorkPoint. It's simply the way SharePoint has built its database below. We'll try and click it, and it'll load column names, and I can then choose which one I want to join and bring up. In this case, I want the last name of the project manager. That's all we need. And I'll say OK, and then it will apply the changes. So here we have the names connected to the projects. I'll apply my changes. And you can see this is only 33 rows. Imagine if you had 3,000 or more. So that gives you an idea of why you should. There are some IDs in the system you can use to make proper joins using the query editor, but that's out of scope for this. So now we want to create another chart. We would choose a column chart, this one, and then I want to count my projects on each project manager. So we'll simply get the project manager, and note that I have not changed the label here, which is a little sloppy. I should do that so it looks nice. We do that. Done, and you see I added another rename column to the steps, applying the changes. So now we have a nice looking column header, which I'll simply drag in on the axis, and then I want to do a count of I'm taking the project ID because that would be unique values, and then I count on those, and then I can suddenly see how many projects does each project manager have. I can move it to make it a little bigger, so I can see how the number of projects are distributed between the different project managers. Again, a simple chart, and of course you can expand on this by making it able to drill down and get data from the individuals. That will be a lot more. There's a lot more options than what we're just doing here. But that would be how you can join, and how you can then create another chart from two different lists in the SharePoint. Now you want this to be able to your users. There are a number of ways you can publish this. There is a Power BI application in Windows, and the beauty of that is that it also is very nifty on your mobile phone, so you can produce reports that you can publish to both Windows and mobile phones in one go. You can publish to Power BI on the web, and you can integrate it also in SharePoint Online. That means you can integrate it, of course, in your WorkPoint solution. However, this is a feature that you should not use unless you're running modern UI. The problem here is that there are some security things that is not fully covered in the classic mode of SharePoint, meaning that if you get a report where you have some data that shouldn't be seen by everybody in the organization, and you embed it, then it might be open so everybody can see those data. The security model does not apply, I've been told from people who know. So if you do run SharePoint or WorkPoint in classic mode, which everybody does at this point, then don't embed it into the system. create a link instead or just publish it on the Power BI application. We will be releasing modern UI for WorkPoint after summer, and there's something to look forward to. I'll give you a little sneak peek on how that might look. So from the next release, you will be able to choose whether you want to run classic mode or run your solution in modern UI, which gives some more advantages. There'll be quite a bit of changes in the UI, but something to look forward to. Let's see how the publishing works. Just very simple. We have our workspace here, and I will simply say write file and publish to Power BI. And that will open my, I will give me some options. You might be asked to save the dataset first. If it's not saved, this one is saved, that's why I'm not getting that. But then it'll publish it and put it on the web. From here I can click directly on the link, and it will open my browser to my Power BI. And show me this in browser. Now from here, you will note on the right side up here, there are some sharing. Sorry for this, for those not speaking Danish, this is in Danish, but there are some sharing options here, so you can actually start inviting people to see this already from here. If I want to have the link to embed it in SharePoint, I'm just going to show you how that works as well. Because when you go to File, you will be able to integrate to SharePoint and simply just copy that link. Then you would be able to put that into a Power BI web part on SharePoint or WorkPoint using the modern UI interface. That'll be something we can look at when we get the new release running. So there could be a follow-up for this. But this is how you can publish it. Look for more options on the Power BI guidance on the net. And just to give you a sneak peek on how that might look when you get it published in Power BI, I have another setup here where we have a little test setup of a WorkPoint solution using modern UI. You will notice that you have some documents buttons up here. You have the search feature as you used to, but then you have a completely different interface with a few lists here. And this would be a Power BI report that is, or just a pie chart that's been published here. So this is how we will work with WorkPoint when we start using modern UI, and then you can have these nifty Power BI charts published. Now, some of you are thinking, all right, so what Power BI do we have that? What if I haven't got it? Now, what if I haven't got Power BI? Well, the good news here is that a lot of this with Power Query and getting data out is actually similar to Excel. They use the same end. So if I'm in my Excel and I say get data, I can enter my SharePoint solution here as well, and then I can pull it out in a report in Excel. If you're familiar working with Excel and datasets in Excel, that might be easier for you to start with. And you could do exactly the same. So if I click OK here, I will get something like this, just like you saw it in my little video before. So that would be the help for those who don't have or don't want to work with Power BI. You can use Excel for getting data out as well. That was everything I had to say today. Thank you for your interest. As per usual, please feel free to mail me or ring me if you have further questions or want to discuss something. If you need assistance, please contact your WorkPoint partner. If you haven't got a WorkPoint partner, you're more than welcome to contact us, and we will find a good partner for you. So thank you for today. This will be the last webinar before the summer. So hopefully you will all have a really good vacation. Thank you for now.